Hi guys, we're going to do a foldable on fractions, decimals, and percents. So you should have a sheet of paper that looks like this in front of you. The back side is blank. First thing I want you to do is fold your paper inward on this dotted line so that it looks like this. And then fold the other side to do the same thing. And when you open it up, you should have creases on those dotted lines. Once you have folded it, I want you to take a pair of scissors and don't cut on the big dotted lines, but cut on these little tiny small lines until you get to the big line. So that way it should look like this, and you can pull one back at a time. Make sure that the inside of your writing is side face up, and we're going to start to fill in our foldable. So the first thing that we're going to put in this top left corner is F to D, which means fraction to decimal. We're going to learn how to convert from a fraction to a decimal. And that's something like 1/2 to 0.5. So if you open it up, here are the instructions for how to do so. You have to divide the numerator by the denominator and write it as a terminating or a repeating decimal. So basically, you're going to do what I call the cowboy way. And let me zoom in so that you can see this a little bit better. Okay. So basically, let's say we have 5, 6. Well, cowboy rides his horse. So up here is the cowboy, and down here is the horse. So the cowboy goes into the saloon while his horse is outside. He kicks off his boots, the cowboy does, he raises his hat, and then he eats a donut. So now we do division. Can 6 go into 5? No, it cannot. Can 6 go into 50? Yes, it can. 8 times minus 48 gives me 2 remaining. Well, I can't be left with a remainder, so I have to eat another donut. How many times does 6 go into 20? 3 times. Minus 18 gives me 2. Okay, eat another donut. That'll give me 3 more times. Minus 18. And once we get to this point, you should see a pattern. 20 minus 18, 20 minus 18. And if we ate another donut, it would be 20 minus 18 again. And since you see a repeating pattern here, you should be able to see it up here as well. In this case, the 3 is the digit that repeats, not 33, just 3. That's why we have a 3 again. We would keep having 3s like this. So the way we write this is a repeating decimal, we would write that as 0.83, and we put a bar only over the 3 because this bar shows us what digit's repeating. The other, so that's how you will get a repeating decimal. In order to get a terminating decimal, again, 3 is the cowboy, 4 is the horse. You would tie the horse up outside while the cowboy goes inside. The cowboy kicks off his boots, raises his hat, and eats a donut. 4 goes into 3 0 times, 4 goes into 30 7 times. Minus 28 gives me 2. Eat another donut, and that goes in 5 times. Minus 20 gives me 0. You can tell when you finally have a donut out here, he was full, and he didn't need to eat any more donuts. So your final answer for 3/4 would be 0.75. So you can fold that back up. The next one we're going to do, next step down, is D to F. 0.5 to 1/2. This means decimal to fraction. So here we're going to learn how to make a decimal into a fraction. This one is really easy. I like to call it proper English. All you have to do is say the decimal correctly and write the fraction for it, and then obviously simplify if you have to. So my first example, we would read this as 0 and 26 hundredths because it ends in the hundredths place. So therefore, we have 0 as our whole number, and then we have 26 hundredths, 26 over 100. And that can simplify if we divide the top and the bottom by 2. That will give me 13/50. That's my final answer. For the next one, we have 2.6. If I read that in proper English, that would be 2 wholes and 6/10, because it ends in the tenths place. So we're going to have 2 wholes and 6/10. And that makes sense because since there's a number before the decimal, we know that it's a whole number, so that we have to have a mixed number. And that'll reduce to 2 3/5, again by dividing by 2 on the top and the bottom. This one gets a little tricky, but really not too much if you remember the rule. This is 37.5 repeating. Well, you know that 37 is going to be your whole number because it comes before the decimal. Whenever you see a repeating sign, it's the digit that's repeating over that many digits of 9, which sounds a little confusing, but since there's only one number under this bar notation sign, that means we only put that in a fraction. That's the numerator, and our denominator is only one digit of 9, since there's only one digit that repeats. So that would be 37/5 over 9. And that can't simplify, so that's that answer. And then this one, 16.12 repeating. Well, again, you know it's 16 wholes, and there's 12 under the bar notation sign, which has 2 digits. So therefore, it's going to be 16 and 12 over 2 digits of 9, which would be 99. And that can simplify. Each can divide by 3, right? So that's going to give me 16 wholes and 4 33rds, which is as simplest as it possibly can be. Okay? The next one, fold it back in. The next one we're going to do is P to F. So percent to fraction, which is basically like 50% into 1/2. Okay, so like 50% to 1/2. So if you open it up, the notes in here say that you write the percent as a decimal, and then you say the decimal aloud correctly, and then you write the fraction for it. But there's actually an easier way to do it. So, for instance, you know that per cent, how many cents are in a dollar means out of 100, right? Per cent would be out of 100, and that's how many there are in a dollar. So, if you have 56%, then that would literally mean 56 out of 100. And then you would simplify that if necessary, which we know can simplify to 28/50 by dividing by 2. And then we know that will simplify to 14/25 by dividing by 2 again. You could have originally divided by 4 and still gotten this answer, but the end result is 14/25. Alright, so I'll give you a little bit trickier one. 216%. Again, you know that that's 216 out of 100. Well, you know that that's going to be an improper fraction, so you have to make it into a mixed number. So that 100 goes into 216 2 times, with 16 left over out of 100. Which, if you divide each by 4, you will get 2 wholes and 4 25ths. And the last one I want to do is 0.4%. Alright, so it would be 0.4 out of 100, except you can't have a decimal and a fraction. So I'm just going to move this over one place, but if I do that to the top, I have to do the same to the bottom, which means I'm going to have 4 out of 1,000, which simplifies to 1 out of 250, because I divided each one by 4. Okay? Again, you can do it this way, but then you're having to do 2 steps instead of 1 step. Alright, come back up to the top right corner, and we're going to go from F to P, and that's going to be 1/2 to 50%, as an example. Okay. Now, the directions in here say you divide the numerator by the denominator and write the decimal, which we do here, but then move the decimal 2 places. Again, this is 2 steps, and you can do this, but I think it's easier if you just multiply the fraction by 100. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean. Since you already know how to multiply fractions, basically if we want to make 3/4 into a percent, we know percent means out of 100 again, so we're going to multiply by 100. In order to do that, we have to make it into a fraction, so we have to put a 1 under the whole number, and then you simplify. 4 goes into 100 25 times. 4 goes into itself 1 time. 3 times 25 is 75 over 1, which is the same thing as 75%. And then I'm going to do 5/6. 5/6 times 100. Now, 6 does not go into 100 evenly. However, 2 does. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. That's going to give me 250 divided by 3. Well, 3 does not go in there evenly, so we're going to have to end up cowboying, like we did to fraction to decimal. So again, 250 goes inside, while 3 gets tied up outside. 3 goes into 25 8 times, sorry. 8 times minus 24 gives me 1 left over. I bring down the 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times, minus 9 gives me 1 left over. I can't have 1 left over, so I need to kick off my boots, raise a hat, eat a donut. And when I bring it down, 3 goes into 10 3 times, minus 9 gives me 1. I notice that it's a repeating pattern. So I'm going to have 83.33333 forever percent, right? But the correct way to write that, and listen, this is very important, 83, your whole number has to stay normal. 83, and then whatever comes after the decimal, you can shorten with bar notation. So I have to leave this part, but this part I can make 0.3 repeating percent. And that is your final answer. Okay? Alright. Next one we're going to do is decimal to percent. So D to P. And that's, for example, 0.5 to 50%. This is super easy. All you have to do is move the decimal 2 places to the right and then write the percent sign. The great way to remember that is we're going to a percent, so we're going to have to go to the right. Alright, so, for example, 0.4, right, is going to become what percent? Well, we move it 2 places to the right. Here's one place. I have to go 2 places, so here's another place. I put my decimal, and then I add my percent sign. Well, if there's a hole here, I have to fill it in, which means I'm going to have 40%. And you know that 4/10 is equal to 40 hundredths, which is equal to 40%. The next one I'm going to do is 5.169. And again, I move it 2 places to the right, so that's going to go 1, 2, and that's going to give me 516.9%. Which makes sense because we started off with 5 holes, and you know that 1 hole is 100%, so 5 holes with some change has to be 500% and some change. 0.038 is the next one I'm going to do. Again, you move it 2 spaces to the right, 1, 2, and so I'm going to get 3, because I don't need that extra 0 in front, 3.8%. And then the last one for this conversion is 1.0006. Now, even though it looks kind of complicated, you know that there's only one hole, so it's going to be around 100%. Again, we move the decimal place 1, 2, and you're going to get 100.06%. So again, pretty easy. You just have to know, since you're going to a percent, you need to go to the right. And the last one we're going to do is percent to decimal, which is just like we did above, except we're going to go to the left. And that's cool because since you're going to a decimal, we're going to have to go to the left. So, we're starting at a percent, 40%. You cross out your percent sign. You put your decimal in where it belongs if it's not already in there, which is at the end of the 0. And then you move it 2 spaces to the left. In this case, we always put 0 as a whole place value if it doesn't have a whole number. If it doesn't have a whole number already. And then it would be 0.40, which is the same thing as 0.4. You don't have to have that 0 on at the end. Next one we're going to do is 516.9%. Again, you cross off your percent sign. Here you already have the decimal, so you just need to move it 2 spaces. And you're going to get 5.169 as your decimal. Here, we're going to do 3.2000%. Again, cross off your percent sign. Your decimal would go here, right at the end, and you're going to move it in 1, 2. So at this point, you have these point zeros behind it. You don't need any of that. This says 320 and 00, which you don't need. So all you have to do is write, well, I'll show you. It looks like this, but you don't need all that junk, so you can just write 320. And the last one I want to do is 3.8%. Here you'd cross out the percent sign. You already start at your decimal and you move it 1 space, but you have to move it 2. So you're going to put your decimal here and you're going to fill in your 0 placeholders, which is going to leave you with 0.038. Okay? So that's all the notes I have for you guys today. So you should have a foldable that has ended up looking just like this. Thanks for watching.